Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. The Supreme Court on Thursday directed the centre to set up a dedicated special court in every district which has over 100 cases under protection of children from sexual offences pending. The Apex Court gave this mandate with a deadline of 60 days as it was concerned about the slow pace at which child sexual abuse cases are being dealt with. A bench of Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, Justice Deepak Gupta and Justice Aniruddha Bose made these statements when they learnt that 1.5 lakh POCSO cases were pending in 670 designated courts. Quoting available data, the court pointed out that only 3% victims in POCSO cases received compensation in 2015 and the number increased to only 4 and 5% in 2016 and 2017 respectively. As per this data, a judge on an average has to decide on 224 cases. To address this, the Apex Court asked for the centre to set up special courts which should be funded by the centre as well. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyse what is the best way to deal with child abuse. Joining me on the programme today are V. Rajalakshmi, sociologist, Janki Devi Memorial College, Rekha Agarwal, advocate of the Supreme Court, and Alka Singh, head Policy and Advocacy, Save the Children Foundation. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Rekha Agarwal, I'd like to begin the program with you. Let's first try and understand and put into perspective, why is it that despite having such a strong law, there are so many cases pending as far as child abuse is concerned? What's the problem? What's the crux of the problem really?
I would probably put it to our legal system, which as the Constitution has safeguarded that before any person is punished, he deserves a fair trial. And the rule of law is that, let 99 guilty persons go scot-free, but one innocent person should not be punished. Keeping that safeguard in mind, probably I would only attribute this delay and the number of pendency of cases due to this fact that we are a democratic country. We do have a very strong judicial system. The POCSO law itself is very strong which results in punishment in all cases wherever a person is found to be guilty. And even now that we're even contemplating to have a death penalty in cases of aggravated sexual assault. The law is a very stringent law, is already there in place. The amendments are going to make it even better, more stronger, have far-reaching consequences, but our judicial system just believes in a slow trial for every guilty person. Though of course, and the flip side of it is that, as I said, the justice delayed is justice denied. Keeping that also in mind, we do have to draw a balance. It is a very bleak picture at the moment, I will admit, because the number of cases that are there, hundreds of cases are pending. We do need fast-track courts, but at the same time, that itself, we cannot throw away the baby with the bathtub. So we have to keep in mind that both sides deserve justice. The victim deserves justice, he deserves a fair trial. At the same time, the guilty person also deserves a fair trial. So a balance has to be drawn between both the two things. Only then we can have a better situation where the child cases of sexual assault are reduced.
Absolutely. A balance is always good when you talk about, several aspects. But when you talk about child abuse, Alka, do you believe that because of the seriousness, because of the nature of some of these crimes, heinous crimes really committed against children, that somehow this process of law needs to be expedited?
Definitely needs to be expedited. I would like to put this from children's perspective. Children who are more than 40% population of the country. And if you look at some of the statistics, it actually reveals, this is 2006 report, which says that 88% of the children who were under the survey had reported abuse, physical abuse from their parents themselves. So if we see that most of the cases wherein children face such atrocities, face such violence from people who are known to them, people who are close to them, are from their family, how would they even report such cases? So, empowering them, making them aware about what's happening is not right and they need to speak up. We have to begin from there. Unfortunately, even with all such researchers which have opened our minds, opened our eyes, have not really translated into, even making children aware and see what's happening around. It's happening to children as little as 3-year-old, even younger. So, we really need to first make our communities aware and empowered that, you know, this is not to be taken. This is to be reported. And then of course, if it's not expedited, if it's delayed for years, then the very belief in the system, you know, that's not there.
Justice delayed is justice denied.
Is denied. So if a family, if a parent, if a child is you know, it makes a million rounds to courts and still nothing, you know, there's no justice, then this is what others also see and, you know, take it from there. So yes, it needs to be expedited, and if such courts which are speedy, you know, promising speedy trials in districts which are have 100 or more cases, I think is a very welcoming step. Should happen.
Right? Rajya, what is the crux of the problem? Because this is something that has been, you know, that has existed for a really long time. Several attempts have been made to try and address this particular problem of child abuse. We have a stringent law now in the form of POCSO, but that has not deterred those who have gone out and committed some of these heinous crimes.
You know, it's basically a social problem in the sense that, you know, our society is changing so fast, and the pace in which it is changing, the awareness, of course, is too much. There is too much of exposure. So what happens is that, you know, when you start interacting too much with each other, there is too much of a gap in understanding each other also. So that leads to certain kinds of crime. And these crimes, one hears, has more to do with the family, known people around them. So what happens is constantly this lack of sensitivity, exposure, and also lack of awareness. As they said, both the experts, saying that, you know, once the legal system takes its own course of time, people tend to take it very lightly. They feel that, you know, we can get away with it. So therefore, what happens, these crimes go on increasing. One of the reasons these crimes are increasing also because of too much of social media exposure. I mean, both positive and negative. Here I would say both, more in terms of negativity. Mainly because of aggression, which is very increasing a lot, the kind of intake food which we take, which also sometimes, you know, hampers our, you know, biological and mental makeup, which in turn shows the way we react to people around us. And unfortunately, children are very vulnerable, and most of the times one feels that they might not be able to report, and by, you know, scaring them about the consequences, that, you know, suppose in case you go and report, you're going to get into more serious trouble than what is actually you're facing. So these kind of things. So it becomes very important for the parents to be very communicative. The school should take the responsibility of, you know, conducting workshops, continuously talking to the children. As I said, the parents, the siblings and all, the family should be very, very communicative with each other, and that would really help in understanding what is actually the person who's, you know, been abused is facing.
Okay, so better awareness at some point in time.
Awareness is very important.
Will go a long way. I'll just come to you, Alka, on awareness in just a bit. But before that, you know, Rekha Agarwal, as far as special courts are concerned, what has our experience been, you know, with special courts? Now, these special courts are exclusively going to deal with child abuse cases, and within the span of 60 days is what the Supreme Court is talking about. So, is this going to address the problem?
Well, it should, because in the past we have had fast-track courts for heinous crimes against women like rape, and especially after the Nirbhaya case, the government has ensured that we have fast-track courts for rapists, you know, particularly you know, who have been you know, cases where the rape has even resulted in death. So keeping that in mind, I think that having fast-track courts by itself, you know, will solve the problem. We have to make sure that these judges who are there in the fast-track courts, they are sensitized, they are specially made to be aware of the law. I mean, it's not that they're not aware of the law, but they should be having special training, special coaching regarding dealing with such kind of cases. For example, the sensitivity which has to be there, the law regarding criminology, the criminal aspect, the psychology of the criminal who does it. So all those things have to be made, kept in mind. Just having fast track courts by themselves is not going to solve the problem. We should have special judges who should be manning these courts and make sure that at least there is a lady judge in all these courts, because just having a male judge itself may not be able to solve the problem, because women have that that special extra X factor, I would probably say that, where it may be more comfortable for a child victim to kind of confide about his or her problem that the child has gone through. So that I think these fast track courts should be always held by 2 judges, one male judge and one female judge, who are specially given this training to decide such kind of cases regarding sexual offences, whether it is of women or whether it is of children. This being a gender, since POCSO is a gender neutral law, the only law that we have for children which is gender neutral. So I think we have to keep in mind that it is not only little girls who become victims of sexual offences, but even boys become victims of such offences, and even those children have to be protected. Those boys need to be protected.
Talking about training and talking about better judges to deal with this specific kind of a problem, isn't that also going to add to the time factor? Because you'll have to train the judges and then so on and so forth.
Well, of course, that is going to take time, but that just having, I said, just the fact that we have to reach the verdict, we have to decide the case within a period of 60 days, that is going to work both ways, that we just having a justice delayed and justice denied is one factor, but at the same time, the law itself should not be kind of sidelined, and the basic precautions have to be kept in mind. So I think that these judges should be given a training side by side, and it has to be a parallel system. It doesn't mean that the pace of work has to be slowed down or to be kept in abeyance. The case cannot be kept in abeyance till the judges are given special training. That process should be done side by side. It should be a parallel system, has special classes, have extra classes to sensitize the judges, let them have sit in workshops. There have to be workshops for this, so that the judges become aware of the latest law, about the sensitivity which I keep talking about in these programs. The basic thing is that they should be very, very specially trained regarding child psychology, as well as the law of criminology, the psychology of the victim as well as the psychology of the criminal. And the criminal, one also has to keep in mind that the criminal may not always be a man. We tend to think of the criminal mostly as men, that it is the rapist is going to be a man. But what about women who are also exploiting the law, misusing the law, and kind of exploiting the children for their so-called sexual fantasies or whatever that they indulge in. So we have to make sure that there is a balance in the courts and both sides get equal justice.
Right. So I'm going to come back to you now, Alka, on the better awareness aspect of it. How long do you think awareness will go in trying to deal with this particular problem?
Well, of course, awareness is the first step. Making children, their parents, communities aware, of course, is the first step to actually see that we start getting results. I mean, the deterrent that we had been talking about. But it needs a multi-pronged approach. It's not that it's one campaign which will solve all problems. I'll say we need to start with taking right kind of information in the language which children understand to them. I mean, right there in form of being part of the curriculum itself. Wherein it's discussed in the classroom, it becomes part of the interaction that teacher and children have in the classroom. So it has to be there. Unfortunately, many of the acts which have their impact on children are not even written in language which can be understood by children. So what's the point there? So first, it needs to be simplified, written in a way which will help a child to understand what's there for him or her and how to access that right. So POCSO and such progressive acts needs to be non-negotiably needs to be part of the curriculum itself, should be taught in the classroom. Second, I would say there are several good things happening. Like we have village level child protection committees provisioned, but how many have been constituted? How many are functional? Save the Children works in 2 states. We are actually assisting state governments of Rajya, Jharkhand and West Bengal in making these village level child protection committees functional. And in our way, we see that even job descriptions of child protection officials, to what their role be, how can they take and put cases for fast track, redressal, it's all lacking. It needs to be strengthened. So if we look at several provisions that's there, can actually becomes our vehicles for awareness as well. village level child protection committees or local level child protection committees, if trained well, if made aware, if given this responsibility well, then it can do a tremendous job there. And third thing, I would like to say that we have certain good examples like She Teams in Hyderabad, which is a mobile police patrol van, and they are there within people, talking about it. If there is a case, the van itself has a conferencing system wherein you can speak to magistrate and talk there. So that actually puts more faith in children who are facing violence. Similarly, Save the Children also had tried something like a 40 minutes film which was screened in states of Telangana and Andhra before films, the movie that comes in theatre. Very, very powerful again, and it reaches children in large number and their parents and people in large numbers. I think we really need to take such good examples that's around, those islands of excellence we have created together from within the government, by civil society, and then see that it actually gets replicated, scaled up.
Sure, even the Supreme Court has touched upon this particular aspect
Yes.
and spoken about how we can put out some of these short films out,
Yes.
before film screening and all that, so that people are made more and more aware. We Rajalakshmi, I don't know how to say this, but because of a lack of a better word, we are a touchy, physical kind of a society. People pick up children, kiss them, and so on and so forth. So when we come from that kind of a background, how do we teach a child the difference between good and bad touch, and what age is the right age really to educate a child about that?
Actually, a child, most of the times when we hear about cases, we also do hear about cases below 5. And it's very difficult for a child who is below 5 to be taught what is good or what is bad touch. Why? Because we have a tendency to lift a child, as you rightly said, the moment you see a bubbling child or a child who's very talkative. So it becomes a habit on us, and we do encourage that kind of a thing.
The
So it
first thing
becomes
that you
very,
do when you see a child is puchi de do.
Puchi de do. And so it's very difficult actually to teach a child at least below 6 to what is good touch and bad touch. Then the child starts going to school, maybe 4 plus, 5 plus, and then maybe you can start. But the right age, of course, is about 8, when they slowly start understanding what is a good touch and what is a bad touch. Unfortunately, in most of the areas, because I have been doing a lot of research, social research in remote corners of India, and when we go and interact with them, they don't even understand actually. The parents don't understand what is a good touch and what is bad touch, and what exactly where to and how to teach a child. And in most of these schools which are in remote schools, there the school functionary syllabus is also like very restricted, and to have an extra training for such kind of things, I'm sorry, it's missing. So therefore it becomes very important for the state government or for the central government to take these kind of awareness camps very seriously. Because most of these villages are such remote villages that the person who is committing the crime and the person who is facing both don't understand what is exactly is a crime and how to draw a line between what is right and what is wrong. And of course, sexual thing is in some places this kind of a thing becomes an activity which they don't even understand, disturbs the other person. It's more of a adjusted, relaxed and accepted thing. So, I mean, it's a very wrong thing, because our society is going in a very, very, polar directions, where in some metropolitan cities there is too much of awareness, and in some remote corners there is no awareness at all. So, the gap is too much, and so therefore it becomes very essential for the civil society, because unfortunately blaming everything to the state or expecting the law to give a magical this thing is very tough. So, we have to be very conscious. Awareness, social workshops, interactions have to be there. The way we had a huge anti-smoking campaign, that is before the movie begins, there are a small clipping, those kind of things have to be shown. So
Right.
that at least, more and more discussions are
And
done.
even if it is graphic in nature, it doesn't matter
yeah.
because that's what sends the point
That's-
home.
Yeah,
That's-
and I do agree with Alka when she says that, they have to be child friendly. The way one teaches, the teaching methods have to be very, very child friendly, very simple.
Right.
That which touches the heart of everyone around you.
Right. So we've seen the POCSO Act, of course, being debated in both houses of parliament, and there are amendments as well. So Rekha Agarwal, going forward, what's going to change? How are things going to be different?
To be very honest, I really do not see things really happening in a different manner, because the crime rate needs to be curbed, and as the other two speakers also spoke about it, that awareness is lacking. So it's not as if we had the law was not complete in itself. The law, the POCSO Act, though it took us 20 years to even have a special law like that, after 1992 after the Beijing the convention, India being a signatory to that, we ultimately enacted in 2012. So the law itself, I've read that act many times, I have delivered many lectures, been part of many workshops, but again and again at the cost of repetition, I'll repeat that the awareness about this law is lacking. What to talk of children not being aware of the fact that something wrong has been done to them? Even adults, many adults, educated people in metro cities, they never even heard of the term POCSO. They say, what are you talking about? Is this something new? They compare it. In fact, people don't even know how to pronounce the word. They often pronounce it as POSCO. Not many people think of it as POCSO. So that is a lack of respect to that law itself. So of course, amendments are, they only highlight the fact that as far as child abuse is concerned, the answer is no, zero tolerance to that. No person who commits a sexual offense on a child should be allowed to get away with it, whether it is a man or a woman. Even if a woman is the culprit, she needs to be equally punished. But no amount of laws, no amount of making death penalty also as one of the punishments for aggravated cases of sexual assault and child pornography, until all those things are debated about, until there's awareness, until there is a fear of the law. Just tell me, I'll be very candid, even after the Nirbhaya case, after the criminal law amendment has been there, let's face it, Nirbhaya case only widened the definition of the term rape, and the punishment has become so much more stronger than before, and even the definition of rape, that what constitutes rape, that has changed. But let's be frank about it, that in the morning when we pick up the paper, how many cases of rape are there almost every day, and almost every day one reads about a POCSO offense also being committed. Just this today's Times of India talks about a constable who raped a minor girl, a person of the arm of the police, and a savior of the law, a protector of the law. He committed a rape on an 8-year-old child and is missing since then. So what do we do in such a scenario? It's a very, very dismal scenario. My heart really gets burdened and talking about such cases, because as a lawyer, I come across these cases day in and day out. And we'll have fast track courts, we'll have stricter punishments. But yes, the awareness is still lacking amongst the people, as well as amongst the children, the parents, the teachers, people of the armed forces, doctors. What about doctors who exploit their patients? What about teachers who exploit their students?
Right.
What about parents who exploit their own children? So when is that going to stop? That will not stop just by making the amendment in the law.
Right. So, Alka Singh, Rekha Agarwal alluded to the fact of death penalty. Now, that's a side debate that has been going on as well in this country for a long time now. Your thoughts on death penalty, rarest of rare case, death penalty, do you believe that that's the way to go? Do you think that that could be a deterrent really as far as child abuse is concerned?
Let me begin from what I had said earlier, which is in most of the cases, accused or the perpetrator is known to the child, is from the family. Now, we actually had looked at it from that angle. We tried to see that if death penalty, is there, then would that be a deterrent? Maybe, but would the child report, or will this reporting again go more into underreported, given that a child possibly would be in pressure to protect their own family member who have committed that crime? So we see it from that lens, that it's going to further put pressure on the child, given that the perpetrator is known, given that the punishment is that severe. So this, to us, seemed like taking us backwards than actually forwards in terms of both preventing as well as cases getting reported. Right.
All right. So, quick closing comment from you, Viraja Lakshmi, before I wrap up the program with the best way forward really as far as child sexual abuse is concerned.
See, the most important thing, of course, is awareness, to fear for law, and to constantly be very communicative, keep talking about it, whatever you face. The parents should be more open, talking to the children about what they're facing, both inside and outside. That is very important. And individuals should be more able to get an understanding of their surroundings. That's very, very important.
Right. All right. Yes, Alka.
Can I say something? Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about children who have faced this. What about their counseling, their rehabilitation? I think that needs to come out very, very strongly, because that also gives a very strong message that, we are not forgetting them who have faced it. So I think that again is one
last bit,
Yeah,
if I may add, that you have to put a check on the internet and all these child pornography sites, which are just literally getting away with murder by showing all those kind of content which needs to be banned. There has to be a check on that, because I think the child pornography is, where it is only encouraging sexual crimes, as well as, making children victim of such offences, which they are not even aware that what their bodies and minds are going through.
Right. All right. So basically, we should start with awareness, and awareness will go a long way really as far as dealing with this problem is concerned. Fast track courts or amendment of the law or a stricter law is really not the answer. We need a holistic approach to deal with this problem with an iron fist going forward, is what the panelists are suggesting. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it on this edition of The Big Picture. See you again next time.